I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, you crazy, beautiful, weirdo people? How you doing tonight? Hope everyone is doing well, having a great Monday evening. Those of you that can catch it live with me tonight, those of you that will catch it later, certainly appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. All right, who we got in here this evening? Miss Sandra Piper, as always. Hello, ma'am. Judy Wheeler, hello. Tiffany, Tea Time with Tiffany, moderator extraordinaire. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I'm sure some more of our locals, or C. Duke, thank you very much. Some more of our regulars will be popping in and out here shortly. Glad you all could join me this evening. Appreciate it. I know supposed to be doing this on Tuesday, but I had to reschedule Miss Jessica Jones last week, and I had someone lined up for tomorrow. So I scheduled Jessica for today, and I was going to have back-to-back shows, but my guest tomorrow had to reschedule. But we will be back Friday for a very, very interesting show. But tonight, you got me, and you got Miss Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, coming back for round 2. Before we get there, though, let's do all this cool stuff. If you have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Sure would appreciate it. If you've had an encounter and would like to come on and share it with me, I'd love to talk to you about that. Shoot me an email to Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com. I want to ask everybody to please head over to our website, paranormalworldproductions.com. Check out all of the shows over there on our network. We would appreciate that greatly. Pick you up some merch, all that good stuff. Guys, if y'all have any questions tonight for Miss Jessica, please feel free to send those our way. But if you do, please put them in all caps. This makes it a little bit easier for me to see, me to get to. And as always, guys, if you ask a question and I don't get to it, it's not on purpose. Just wait a little bit, and if you don't mind, type it out again, and I will get you. But please do that in all caps. All right. That's all I've got with all of that. See if anybody else has popped in here. The regulars are starting. All right. Had a fun, exciting, and exhausting weekend at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It was a great, great weekend. I had a chance to go with several of our people from our studio, Paranormal World Productions. Brian and I went to the VIP dinner Friday evening, hung out with the, I guess, celebrities, the bigger names, the speakers and stuff. Got to go and hang out with all of them. Brian was included in all that. Brian did he was like the person that brought up the people that had an encounter. He kind of questioned them and let them share their encounter on the stage. It was a fun time. Got to meet some people, have good conversations with people in the Bigfoot community. It was a really fun time. Hung out with Chad and Bob from the Basement Hangout. Got to meet those guys in person for the first time. Also, Tyler and Denny from the Kentucky X Files. They, as they called it, the Cannonball Run. They left early Saturday morning and drove down from Kentucky and hung out with us, and then drove back. So it was a really good time getting to hang out with those guys. We had a blast. All right, that is enough of all of that. I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Jessica Jones on. There she is. How you doing, ma'am?
Hey, Wayne. I'm doing good. How are you tonight?
Doing very well. Thank you so very much for being flexible and getting back here and rescheduling with me. I appreciate it.
Of course. I had a lot of fun last week talking to you. So, of course, I'm going to be back.
Yeah, and I thanked you, but I want to thank you again for putting a little video or little teaser out on your channel. I got like 30 or 40 more subscribers. I'm sorry. Yeah, 30 or 40 more subs from it, so I appreciate that.
Hey, that's amazing. Anything I can do to help. It's kind of my job. I like advertising on any shows that I go on. I show as much support as I can to everybody that's in the community, and is willing to bring me on their show. Hey, I'm gonna go all out for you. Okay, whatever I can do.
I've heard that about you. I really have. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I've heard really good stuff about you. I don't think I've ever heard anything negative about you at all, and that's rare for people in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very sweet of you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Tonight we are, I told you right before we came on, I asked you what you wanted to talk about, and told you I'd like to get a little weird with this one. So I think we're going to lean heavy on the Dogman stuff. I know that seems to be a favorite of a lot of people. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off and tell us what you know about the Dogman?
The Dogman is an interesting topic because there's so many people that are super interested in it. Not only have a lot of people experienced Dogman, it's a little more risque than Sasquatch, in my opinion. Okay, and I think that may be why people are so apt to like wanting to talk about and look into Dogman more, because a lot of us, like, we have a lot of evidence of Sasquatch, a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of just evidence, footprints and track lines, and people have been studying Sasquatch for a long time. But when it comes to Dogman, it's a little more mysterious, right? You don't see a whole lot of videos of Dogman. I mean, I've been out in the field doing field research since 2011. I've never seen a Dogman. Okay, we've experienced lots of Bigfoots out in the field, but not Dogman. But we have areas that we researched that have Dogman reports. Okay, and we have Dogmen potentially in the areas that my team researches. Okay, and as a matter of fact, the county that I live in has had Dogman / werewolf reports reported to the local sheriff's department for years, maybe like 20 years going back. People claim to see a werewolf usually crossing the road or on the side of the road in the northern part of the county. A matter of fact, I just went there about a month ago. I'm going to say like 3 weeks ago or so. I met a group of ladies, some friends of mine, up at the Etowah Indian Mounds here in Georgia. And you might be familiar with it. I know this is your stomping grounds too, up in like Northwest Georgia. And so we met them. I met them up at the Etowah Indian Mounds. And, Dogman reports actually go hand in hand with Indian mounds, Native American burial grounds, and the Indian mounds. Okay. For whatever reason, we're not exactly sure. Okay. But there are lots of reports of dogmen actually like being seen digging into Indian burial mounds.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. That goes back way for many years, for decades.
You
Yeah.
know, I when I first got into the subject, really big in Bigfoot, and I started hearing about Dogman. First off, I thought it was just silly. I thought we had enough stuff to worry about with Bigfoot than worrying about this giant dog that eat us.
Right.
And then I started to think, the more I listened to people, I started to think maybe a misidentified Bigfoot. Like
Yeah.
a deformed Bigfoot maybe. But to hear people talk, no, it's something completely different. But and then the Native American thing come up, and then Skinwalker. I mean, do you think there could be a connection there? Because I flirted with that idea for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then we get into the topic of dogmen versus werewolves. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole, I want to say it's a whole other topic, but actually I think it's very similar. Okay. And so are people seeing dogmen or are people seeing werewolves? And what is a werewolf, Wayne? Right? Because I used to think that a werewolf was something like a skinwalker, right? It's a human that takes a werewolf form, okay, or like a wolf form, like a wolf man, right? Hey, ask for the wolf man, right? Remember that commercial? We had that commercial in here in Atlanta. Okay, so growing up, but yeah, okay. So from what I understand, they're totally different. Dogmen versus werewolves are totally different. Now I'm getting this information. What I'm about to tell you is something that I was hearing from a man. He says his name's Victor, and he's on this show. I just did a show about this, okay, and it was about dogman breeding programs in the United States.
Oh wow!
Allegedly, okay, the United States government, military perhaps, has had a dogman breeding program since the 1950s. A Sasquatch breeding program, a werewolf breeding program, and a dogman breeding program. Okay, this is interesting because people have reported seeing dogmen wearing military uniforms before, almost like they were a troop of dogman soldiers or dog soldiers, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, this is not uncommon. This is something that multiple people have reported. Dogmen are often also spotted around military bases. Okay, and Sasquatch too. So there's a gentleman, his name's Victor. I can't remember his last name, but Victor, and he goes on a show. It's Jeff Nadolny. I do know that. I've brought this up a couple of times, the last couple of shows I've been on, because it's so interesting to me. Okay, and Victor is the guy. He claims that he and his dad, like his father, was part of this dogman breeding program for a long time until he passed away, and then Victor took over his dad's job basically, and they're kind of like handlers. I believe he was a handler to some of these dogmen. Okay, or they actually raise them from little puppies, I guess you call them. puppy boys.
Dogman puppies.
I don't know that weird. It's so weird, right?
Yeah.
So but seriously, they would go in, and when they would get unruly, Victor would go and kill them. Okay, and he was like, "Well, what we call down here in the South, critter control." Okay,
and you spoke to this guy?
I have never spoken with him. No.
Okay.
I had a gentleman that was on my show who was telling all about this on my show. He had been trying to get in touch with Victor or something, and I don't know the whole connection there, but he's the one who turned me on to this. Okay, and it's something I'd heard about before, but he had a lot of really good information. Really interesting information. So I do have an episode. It's called Dogman Breeding Programs. It's an episode on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, over on YouTube. It's very interesting to say the least, because the information that they were giving out, this guy was telling us about, was that dogmen and werewolves had been used in every war since the 1950s. Okay. Yes. On behalf of the United States military. Yeah. They have handlers. I'd always heard that the dogmen are chipped and collared. They're tracked. So, I mean, who's to say? Who's to say they're not? I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen a dogman before, but I do believe they exist, 100%. I know if Bigfoot exists, why wouldn't a dogman exist? There's too many people that have seen them, and too many credible people that I know personally that have experienced them and seen them. Also, I had one of my
you hit it right on the head. There's too many credible people that have seen them.
Oh man, I had a good friend of mine send me some footprints, some tracks yesterday. Humongous. I mean, it had to have been just the biggest wolf in the world, or it was a dogman. So gigantic dog. They look like dog prints, basically. And so, yeah, so there's a difference though between the dogmen and the werewolves. Okay, I've been told that, and this is hearsay because I don't have any proof of this. Okay. But I was told that back during the Vietnam War, the Vietnamese had gone, or they had a lot of caves and like holes in the ground and cave systems that they would go in and hide in, and it was very dangerous for the American soldiers, of course, because they didn't know like where these tunnels went to, and it was too dangerous to send people like soldiers down there. So they unleashed werewolves into those holes, and with a very high body count, let's just say. Coming out very successful as far as like the carnage goes, which is very unfortunate. I know war is disgusting and it's terrible, but it is what it is, but that's what the story is. And so who's to say they're not using dogmen today? I had Jody Cook on my show. He's the head of the North American Dogman Project. And he was telling us about dogmen being seen in like the Middle East, okay, wearing clothes and basically chopping people's heads off and stuff. I mean, just crazy stories. It just doesn't sound real, right? But I mean, damn it, this world is wild, right? Everything is so wild.
Now, I can believe it. Have you taken any in all of your time researching? Have you taken any reports on the dogman?
We have had reports that people didn't know what they saw, and it could have potentially been a dogman, but you did mention that they could be misidentified Sasquatch. Okay. Yeah. And a lot of times there's certain particular Sasquatches that have the long snout. Sometimes they just and sometimes they're bears. I mean, I think a lot of times when people think they're seeing a Sasquatch, sometimes it's a bear or even a dogman. They all do kind of look alike. And so there are certain types of Sasquatch, like the Gugway, for instance. Some people say that the Gugway and the Dogman are kind of the same thing, but there's categories. Okay, so Gugway is supposed to be a mutated Sasquatch, basically, or just a Sasquatch that's a little more violent, and it looks similar to a Dogman.
Yeah, they've been reported to have a snout, right?
Yes. Yeah, they do.
I call them the face eaters.
The face eaters. Yeah, you don't want to run into one of those things in the woods. No. I know I don't.
No, yeah. Keep the face eaters away from me.
Yeah. I don't need a face eater at all. But yeah, we've had let me go back because I just had a thought. Okay, so throughout history here in the US, there were reports of, and this has nothing to do with Dogman. I don't know why I thought of this. Okay. But there were kids that were got lost in the woods, right, at national parks and just deep in the woods, like Yosemite and out in Montana, and Tennessee was one of the places. Kids that got lost, and then the search parties were sent out to find them, and days later they were found unharmed. And the kids said, and there's one kid that was recent. It was up in North Carolina, went missing, and when they were found, they said, "Well, a bear took care of me."
Yeah, a 3-year-old boy.
That's right. And so
I love that you brought that up, Jessica.
Oh yeah.
I think that's such an awesome story, and I want to touch on it at some point in this show. Maybe you and I can do it together. This kid, when he was found, they found him on the other side of this stream where the water would have been over his head. He couldn't have walked beyond it. How did the kid get there? And then he tells you when his mom and dad are talking to him, well, how did you survive? What happened? This bear took care of me. That the bear helped me. Yep. I mean, kids don't lie. 3-year-old toddlers. I have a 2-year-old. She don't know to lie. They don't have to lie.
Right?
They're not going to get in trouble. That is
That's
so
right.
crazy. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's really wild. Well, I guess my point was kind of like, it's easy to misidentify. Okay,
Yeah.
like a Sasquatch and a bear, they do kind of look alike. I mean, I was doing comparisons, like side by side pictures of a potential Sasquatch and a bear, right? And from a black colored Sasquatch to a brown colored Sasquatch to red or whatever, they look a lot like bears. They could. And so to a little child, the only thing that they know and can compare what they saw to would be a bear.
Yeah, right.
Unless it was my kid or your kid, because they're gonna know what a Bigfoot is, right?
That's right. That's right.
Kids would know better, but those kids didn't. They'd never probably heard of a Bigfoot before.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like the motherly instincts kick in with the Sasquatch, because I think they're just big hairy humans. Personally, that's what I think they are. But
I get that.
somewhere in between, just a hairy human and something else. I just don't know what. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to Dogman. Okay, I don't think a Dogman would ever take a kid in and take care of it. But I don't know though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have not heard a ton of horrible stories about Dogman, except for attacks. There's some that are like very deadly. There's some very deadly attacks historically. But those attacks are so bad. That's really all you think of when you think of a Dogman, right?
Yeah.
I hear more positive or just plain like what do you call it? Like where it's not good, it's not bad. It's like indifferent stories about Dogmen where people were actually scared when they saw them, but it didn't do anything to harm them. It was just looking at them, and it had telepathy, right? Where they could, it was conveying a message like, "Oh, it's just you again." I know you. I've lived on this property for longer than you have, person. Human. So, it's just more like scary than it is violent. It's scary to see it.
Yeah, you talked about before we came on, like misidentified animal attacks that led to death, and there's been several of those down here in the South, and it just seemed like right here in this circle, Tennessee and North Carolina, and I think maybe up into Kentucky. I'm sure you've looked into some of those. Have you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I did a whole show on the East Tennessee unspecified animal attacks. I think that a pack of wild dogs was blamed on killing Tony Aarons and Amber Miller. Okay, up in East Tennessee.
Yeah, they lived on the same road, didn't they?
They did. Well, they were on the same road. I don't think Amber lived there, but
Okay.
Tony lived there, and he was mauled to death first. Okay, and what was said to have gotten him, I believe he was first, and it was a pack of wild dogs. Okay, yet no dogs were ever like taken in and tested or put down or anything. And there was actually a guy who, I think he bred like Presa Canarios or something, that lived down the road. I mean, it was just all kind of suspicious or sus, as my son says. Okay, it was a little sus. And this was recent too. Okay, because this just happened about a year or two ago, from what I can recall.
The guy that bred those dogs, and what breed did you say those were? I'd never heard of that.
I want to say like a Presa Canario or
Is that a type of a Mastiff?
It was a Mastiff or something similar, I think. I may have gotten that right. It was a Corsa Canario or a Corsa.
Yeah, Corsicani.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that gentleman down the road had bred some, and I believe that they took his animals and they tested them, but it wasn't.
It wasn't them.
Yeah, it wasn't them. And I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, and that's not what I'm doing here. But these two combined, and I know that there's others. I think there was another one out in one of the western states. They had meth in their system. So I don't know if there's a link. I'm sure that stray dogs aren't attracted to meth, and they're not coming to just people on meth. But I don't know.
Okay, well that's something that kind of ties into some of this, right? Because Amber also, I think she was like in her 30s. I think, I don't remember her age, but she was found and was still alive when they found her, and she had been mauled I believe she was missing like 90% of her flesh or something like that.
Oh
Like
my goodness.
it was really bad. And she lived, I think she lived for about 5 days after that. And what's really, really, really interesting was that she lived for those 5 days, and a judge put the hospital staff, her family, and I guess some of the police officers under a gag order to not talk about what happened to
Yeah.
her. Yeah, so I think that's a little suspicious right there, especially considering they had not found what had killed Tony. But of course it. A lot of these deaths are blamed on packs of wild dogs. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, how many times have I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, but with the number of packs of wild dogs mauling people to death over the past like 3 years, let's just say, I've never seen a pack of wild dogs roaming anywhere. Okay, and I live out in the country.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
see
I
that very
mean,
often.
like you said, I've never seen it either. But like you said, I'm sure it happens. I'm sure that
Yeah.
there are somewhere. But and another one to talk about was the little boy. I can't remember where, but it was down here south that I think it was 10 that was drugged like 300 yards up a hill behind his house and killed by something.
Yeah.
And they ended up blaming it on a pack of dogs. But in that one, they claimed that they found a pack of dogs and found his DNA.
Mm,
But there
yeah.
again, I mean, if there was a pack of wild dogs, just because you found the boy's blood or DNA on those dogs, don't mean that they're the ones that killed him. I
That's
mean, as
right.
bad as it
They could go
sounds,
lick him. They could
yeah,
go lick him to see if he was okay. I mean, who
or
knows?
as terrible as it sounds, it could have been a free meal. If they're
Yeah.
starving, I mean, and
If
I
they're
mean, they don't
starving.
know. They don't
Yeah.
know. They're animals. So
Yeah.
that doesn't prove that they killed them. But this stuff is happening,
Sure.
man. It's scary as hell. And there was an elderly woman that was, I think that was in North Carolina, wasn't it? The elderly woman, she was a retired or a current school teacher.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't remember what is her name. Do you remember her name? It's everybody knows her name. I can't think of it right now.
I don't
That
remember her
was a
name.
pretty famous case. A lot of people knew. She. Yeah. I've heard a couple of different stories of elderly women. Um, being I guess like walking away from their car or whatever, like if their car breaks down, or just being out by themselves and calling for help, and when the police or the tow truck gets there, they're gone, their belongings are there, and then they're found like a mile down the road and their bodies are eaten upon. Okay, and that's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. uh, I'm sure a pack of wild dogs probably did it. I'm sure is what they say. um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna think of that lady's name in a second. If you don't find it first, it's gonna pop into my head any second.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not going to pop into mine. You could probably tell me and I wouldn't remember it. But there was something else.
there,
There were some dogs that she walked with dogs. That's what it was. Every morning she
okay,
got up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and went for her walk, and there was a pack of dogs that walked with her, and some of her DNA was found on those dogs, but those dogs were always with her. And like you said earlier, they could have just been licking her or anything like that. But it's driving you crazy, ain't it?
it is. I'm over here. I'm looking at my computer right now.
Okay.
But this, you said it was in North Carolina. I can't remember.
I think it
Uh,
was.
Somebody in the chat might know. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody in the chat. Tiffany, if you
know.
don't mind,
Brenda
Tiffany,
Hamilton. Thank you, Brenda Hamilton. Yes.
Brenda
Thank you,
Hamilton.
C. Duke. It was
See,
Brenda
Duke.
Hamilton. Yes. You win
Yeah.
the prize.
She was a
Yeah,
school teacher, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
She was very well liked and respected in the community, and
Yes.
it's just terrible, terrible, man. I
It's
mean,
very terrible.
you can just think about, because that's not something that's happening quick. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's not a bullet to the head that's going to take you out real quick. That takes time, and it's got to be terrible.
Yes. It's got to be. There's another case too. Actually, I want to say it was in Missouri. Okay, but I'm not sure. It was this past year. There was a UPS driver that was found dead. I think he was mauled to death or something happened, and of course he had gone to deliver a package, and there were some dogs inside of a house at this residence that he had delivered packages to, and the police went in there and shot the dogs on site inside their house. I don't know if they had been outside. I don't know if they ever proved that those dogs actually attacked that man.
Really?
But he had been attacked by something and mauled. Yeah. So, yeah, lots of cases.
There's a guy delivering a package, you said?
He was delivering a package, yeah. It was an Amazon driver, actually, not UPS. It was an Amazon driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Even if that's what sucks, that even if they knew what it was, they're not going to tell us.
Well, here's the thing. What if, let's just put it out there, what if our military, our government does have a breeding program of dogmen, werewolves, and Sasquatch, and they know exactly where these things are at all times because they're chipped and they're collared, okay, and they have tracking devices on them, and they let them out. Let's just say they let them out to go roam around and to feed and things like that. I know it sounds like it could be very sinister, but what if?
God, I would hope they wouldn't do that. You know what? Yeah.
I would hope not, but the way we're going right now, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I really don't doubt it. Not from the things that I've heard, for sure.
So, when I think Dogman, I think Michigan. I don't know why, but it seems like there's a ton of reports. But are there a lot of reports coming out of the South down here, Tennessee?
Oh,
Georgia,
yeah.
Alabama?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so there's that North American Dogman Project. I believe there's the International Dogman Project. There's a lot of Dogman projects over here. Actually, the head of one of my teams, the North Georgia Cryptid Researchers, his name's Grumpy, call him Grumpy. Bob used to be the Region 5 director of the North American Dogman Project. So I got firsthand info from about a lot of the cases. He actually took a lot of the cases and wrote them up down here around the South. Yes, that's the southeastern region of the U.S. Is where that was. So yeah, there's a lot of cases. Absolutely, and they're everywhere. But yeah, like Ohio, Michigan, those areas have more Dogman reports, I believe, than just about anywhere else.
And you spoke earlier about a giant dog track that you saw. That's the thing I don't understand. It seems like sometimes you hear people talk about these things have human-like feet, and other times they have dog feet.
Dog.
Is there a difference?
Well, that's the difference from what I've been told between a werewolf and a dogman. A dogman has, what do you call it? It's like the dog leg. There's a name for it. I forgot what you call it, where it's got the backwards joints. Yeah. So that's what a dogman is. A werewolf has human legs. Human-like legs. Yeah, just like a Sasquatch and werewolves. I don't know. I mean, I was told that the werewolves are way violent, but they're also told to protect human lives at all costs too, if they're told to. But they have handlers apparently in this breeding program. Now, like I said, this is all secondhand from somebody else, so I don't know for sure. But it sounded pretty legit coming from the person that told me that. So, yeah, it's all up for debate, though, okay? Because I don't think anybody really knows, and except for those people that are in these programs, okay? And if there are people in these programs, I wish they would come forward and actually tell us, okay? But Wayne, what do you think society would do if they said, okay, we have a dogman breeding program, werewolves and Sasquatch, and what if they paraded 5 dogmen out on a stage for everybody to see, and 5 werewolves and a couple of Sasquatch? I mean, do you think people could even handle that?
No.
I don't know. Or would they even believe it?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's something to think about, right?
That's
what I think.
Absolutely.
I think that it's important that we know what we're dealing with out in not only just in the woods, but even now in the cities and the suburbs. There's reports of dogmen being seen in the big cities now. Okay, so it's not just in the woods at the national parks. and in the forest.
Yeah.
So
Grasshopper says I'm staying on the west side of the Rockies. Y'all got some sick stuff over there. You're right, man.
yeah. Well, I think it's important that we know what's going on out there, just
That's what
to protect ourselves.
exactly what C Duke just said. We
Oh
need to know
yeah,
what's out there. We do need to know what's out there.
yeah, yeah. I know you and I both have kids. I like to take my kid camping and
I do
stuff,
too.
but it's I keep my head on a swivel when I've got him out there. I have to, and because you just don't know. You just
And
really don't know.
it's not just that, like the stray dogs or Dogman, werewolf. I was, I told you I went to the festival this past weekend, and it was right at a 3-hour drive from my house, there and back. And I don't listen to the radio anymore. All I listen to are podcasts and Audible. I listen to books, not on tape, books on tape, on audio, whatever.
Right.
And one I was listening to this weekend was disappearances in the national forests.
Oof.
And a lot of
Yeah.
them were kids, like Dennis Martin. I've covered the Dennis Martin story here, and then there was some other kids that's not as well known or as much as talked about as much as the Dennis Martin case, like out west. That these kids are just out there with their parents, like walking just a few feet ahead of them. Turn your
Yeah.
head, and then they're gone. How and to not just gone, but never to be seen again, ever. Like no body,
Right.
no clothes, no footprints, nothing. How do you explain that?
Portals.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I told you before we come on. We'll talk about Dogman and portals if you want to, but
Yeah. Let's do
that's
it.
scary. That's scary as hell, man. That's
Yeah.
scary as hell. I mean, how safe can you be as a parent when you go into the woods? Do you put them on a leash?
Well, you don't let them go pick berries, and don't let them run out in front of you
Yeah,
without you being able to see where they're going.
don't let them play
Yeah.
hide and seek. Don't let them hide in the bush
Nope.
and jump out to scare people. That's what happened with Dennis Martin. But man, it's
Yeah.
terrifying. You're doing your job as a parent. You're out there. You're spending quality time with your kid. You're in nature, getting fresh air and exercise, spending
Yeah.
making great memories with your child. And then you look away for a minute and your life's over. Your life is
That's right.
ruined because you lost your kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I talk about pretty often publicly is the disappearances in our national parks
Yeah.
and our state parks. It's mostly national parks. Okay. And, my team has documented what we consider to be a portal, and we sent people over to check it out, and they disappeared. Their heat signatures completely disappeared. I believe we talked about that last week. I don't remember, but I think we did. And they disappeared. And then when they realized that the environment was a little bit off and it had changed, they backed out of it, and their heat signatures reappeared. And so both of them got very sick after that. And we did talk about that. I do remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. And one of them has passed away since, and the other one had got a pretty aggressive form of cancer. And so we don't know if that was because of what they experienced or not, but we do get a lot of radiation spikes, and they may not be huge spikes, but we do get radiation spikes anytime we have paranormal stuff going on out in the woods. Okay,
Mhm.
well, what exactly was that though? And where did it go? Because as soon as they walked out of it, it like shrunk down. It was a cube shape. It shrunk down and then it moved and it disappeared. Okay, and we have that on video. Very, very strange stuff, but the enormous number of people going missing out of our national parks, we have to wonder where they're going. Okay, with no trace. Okay, no clothes, no footprints. Dogs lose the trail, their scent. Well, of course, I am out there. I'm not just a cryptid girl. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm into the UFO aspect of all this. I'm into the paranormal. I'm definitely into even the secret space program. Okay, and I'm friends with several of the guys who were part of that, who were actually put into like slavery. Okay. Working on the moon. And that's what they claim. I know them personally. I do believe them. So we have the secret space where there's a lot of black programs, black projects going on that we're not aware of, including potentially the Dogman breeding program. Okay. And yeah, we're not the top of the food chain, let's just say,
No,
as humans.
Not at all.
We're not the top of the food chain. So and it seems as though talking to people like the guys in the secret space program who have been into these underground facilities that I talk about pretty often, that are under a lot of our national parks. There's a lot of experimentation going on down there, a lot of off-world stuff going on where they do take people to be slaves, to be food. It's horrible, but that's what I've been told. So I don't know. Like I said, we live in a really strange time.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
And talking about these disappearances, we're all familiar somewhat with the missing 411, Dave Pilates, his books and movies and everything, and he always talks about this huge storm that comes up after the person goes missing and just completely washes away evidence, like several inches of rain that come, and it seems like it happens on every single case.
Probably on cue.
Right
on cue.
It can't be a coincidence.
It's like cue the weather storm, with HARP. Because there's an explanation for everything. Like and it's so sinister. It's like, well, would they do it? Maybe. Probably. Especially if they're kidnapping people, humans, children, whoever. Children are humans, by the way. I know. But kidnapping or taking these people. Yeah, right. But yeah, it's not that out of the question to be like, to wonder, like, well, they do have HARP and weather manipulation systems, right?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of facets to this.
We got our first question for you tonight, Miss Tea Time with Tiffany. Where'd it go? Right here. She asks, how do you feel about feral peepkey?
People.
I did that on purpose to bug her.
Yeah, I think there are feral people out there, absolutely, and
spoiler
we have
alert,
to watch out for them a little bit when we're out in the field.
Spoiler alert before you go any further, Jessica. My guests this Friday are a filmmaker and an actor and executive producer that just made a movie called The Woodman about feral people in the Smoky Mountains. So they're going to be on Friday to talk about that. But go ahead, Jessica. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's super cool, actually. Yeah, I've never come across feral people myself, but it's something that it happens. There are feral people out in the woods, and even up in Northwest Georgia, places like Corpsewood Manor and that area up there, like a lot of like backwoods cults, things like that too. So a lot of interesting things in the woods. So you just have to keep it, like I said, you got to keep your head on a swivel when you're out there. So and it's kind of sad that there are people living like that, but
I think that's how they're choosing to live.
Right. Some of them, yeah, probably off grid. If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, but you made the comment you've never seen a feral person. I think that's by design. And I think if you ever see, you're not meant to see them. If you ever see one, it's going to end badly.
They're probably masters of camouflage. Yeah. Yeah. Masters of camo, just like Sasquatch.
Yeah. Some of these people that go missing might have run into a feral person, and that's why there's no sign of them.
That's true. Yeah. There are so many possibilities as what could happen to all these missing people, but without a trace, though, it's, without a trace. And a lot of the people that go missing could have fallen off the side of a mountain and, a cougar got them or something. I'm asked to look into, sometimes I've been asked or tasked with like remote viewing targets, because I do remote viewing. And a lot of my targets have been missing people. Okay. And I'm able to kind of locate like what happened to them and like potentially where their bodies are and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I've got like blind targets, so I don't know what the target is when I get it. So I have been tasked with targets like a bow hunter in Texas was mauled to death. Okay, mauled to death, and it was suspected to be like a Dogman. Okay, see, because there's just so many different things that could have killed these people, right? And so I was able to, with my remote viewing data, I was picking up on a big mountain lion, okay, or something that was like a jaguar. And it turns out, like down in this part of Texas, they have something called a jaguarandi or something like that, I guess. And I think that it kind of describes what I was seeing when I was remote viewing it. And so I do believe that that's what got the guy. And I do think it came down from a tree and it bit his neck. And I think that's how he died. So that's what I was seeing when I was remote viewing. But yeah, that's why remote viewing is an important tool to have in the tool belt when you're looking into cases. I didn't know
you did remote viewing. That's something that I'm extremely interested in. I think it could be a very useful tool for like you, Bigfoot researcher. I think it's something that could help us a lot. So feel free to jump in and talk about some remote viewing experiences you've had.
Well, okay, so my entire team is extensively trained in remote viewing. And I'm talking about like the Ingo Swan methods of remote viewing. Okay, I don't know if you're familiar with remote viewing at all, but it's what the military has learned. Okay, because our militaries have used remote viewing since at least the Cold War era. Okay, and so I've been trained, like I said, extensively in it, and I love doing remote viewing. I love it. I do it for fun, and like I said, I have a whole team of remote viewers, and it's the people that are on my Bigfoot research team. It's all of us. So we have a full team of Bigfoot researchers that are able to remote view as well. And so we're able to go out. Not only can we like see, we can we're tasked with blind targets. So we're just given coordinates, which are like a set of numbers. Okay, and I'm given those numbers, and I sit down at my desk, and I get some paper, and I do. I get a pen or a couple pens, and I sit down and I draw out my charts, and I'm given the numbers. I'm tasked those numbers, and then I go through a process of stages where I get all this information. It starts flooding in from the matrix, basically, and those numbers, those 8 numbers, give me so much, like page after page of information, and I've got somewhere to write down every single thing I'm experiencing, all my sensory data, somewhere to like draw a sketch, to the analytic overlay, like my brain trying to make sense of all the sensory data that I'm getting. And by 3 or 4 pages, I can pretty much tell you what that target is, what the target was. And I actually do a show every Thursday night where I remote view stuff. So I'm really into it because it's my thing. But yeah, it's just a great thing to be able to do.
I would assume that meditation is key in learning how to remote view. Would that be accurate?
There's a lot of things that are key in remote viewing, and meditation is one of those things. It's to quieten your mind and to get all the noise out of your head. Okay, that's number one. It's just to get all the noise out and to focus. Find a quiet space. Like I can't be around anybody when I remote view. Like I have to be in a quiet room with no distractions. Preferably no technology around me, all that kind of stuff. No barking dogs, no crying kids. So that's
you ain't remote viewing here, Jessica.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Well, I have to go to a quiet space to do it, and but yeah, I can also remote view. I mean, there's so many different types of like modes of remote viewing. There's what I like to do for my shows. I like to do coordinate remote viewing because I have written out like evidence, like all of the data, I call it data, is all written out on paper. And it's time stamped with the date and the time and the location where I am when I do it. I think that's important to have in case you're locating, you get a target and it's like a cold case and you locate where this dead body is or something. And and law enforcement's wanting you to help look into a case for them or something. You need to be like, okay, well, this is where I was tasked this. I just had a set of numbers. Here's my data. Do with it what you will. I've actually been given, when I first started remote viewing and I was tasked with high priority targets, those were usually missing people.
Really?
And yes. And so that's the majority of what I started off doing was
Now,
cold cases.
were you officially asked by like law enforcement?
The head of my team was, and so he gave us, he would task us with targets through cases through law enforcement. Yeah.
Did y'all ever find any?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
We were able to locate, actually one of the guys on my team located the runaway bride. Do you remember that case? There was a lady that ran away. I think it was here in Georgia. And he was able to track exactly where she was, where she went.
Really?
Yeah, stuff like that. Listen, I have so much fun doing this, and it's like I said, I just have a blast doing it, and it's really difficult. Okay, it's not. Thank you, Renee. That's so sweet. I love doing it, even though it can be very like taxing on my body and in my mind and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you really have to use. You have to use. I don't know. I'm trying to think. You have to use protection. That's the word. I was like, I can't think of the word. You have to use protection. Okay. You have to protect yourself psychically and spiritually when you're doing this. Because if you don't, you could have a really bad week after you have located a dead person. Okay. So.
Yeah. Denny from the Kentucky X-Files wants to know if she was pissed. The bride.
The runaway bride, she was trying to hide her identity. Like, I think this lady had like, I didn't know her personally. Okay, so I don't know. But she had gone to like a cemetery and like cut her hair off and like jumped on a Greyhound bus and assumed a new identity or something. And people thought that she was, they thought something really bad had happened to her.
So was she just like, is that like the biggest case of cold feet ever? I mean, or why did she run?
Right? It was a real cold case, cold feet case. Yeah. But yeah, I think she was found. I from what I remember, I think she got charged because it was like, you know, she it cost a lot of money to go hunt that woman down apparently or something, and they put a lot of footwork into it with the police departments. So I don't recommend running away, y'all, and changing your identity unless you're going to become a feral person in the woods. Okay. So.
And then you don't need an identity.
Yeah, you don't need one, and then you're good, right? But you're gonna have to live with Sasquatches. So.
Jessica, let's if you don't mind, let's use the last few minutes of the show. I want to get your opinion, and you spoke to it a little bit earlier, but I want to know like more in depth to what you think Bigfoot is. What is it that we're all out here so passionate about and looking for? What is this thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think what they are I think they're ancient beings. And I want to say they're kind of like just gigantic, hairy humans. Okay. I do believe they have human DNA. I do. They look like humans, actually. If you see one, and they're all different, you know, just like us humans are different. We all look different. Some of us are nice. Some of us are angry. Some of us have had a bad day. Some of us love everybody. Okay. Some of us are mass murderers and, you know, serial killers, and others are just loving, like grandma types. You know what I mean? So all different colors. They speak different languages. I mean, they're all different. I mean, some of the Bigfoots are, and I call them Bigfoots. I usually don't say Sasquatch too often. I think some of them are extremely intelligent, way beyond even human intelligence. I don't think, like I said, we're not the top of the food chain. Okay. When it comes to stuff like Sasquatches and cryptids, a lot of times, even though I'd like to think we are. But I think that there are some that are highly intelligent that utilize their telepathy. Some of them are able to disappear right before our eyes. Okay. And utilize portals. I think a lot of them, when I say ancient, I think that they've been around long enough to know how to utilize Earth's natural portals. Okay. And I think that's how they're transported to different places and how they move sometimes. I don't think all of them do. I don't know. But I've never come across a bed, like an apartment full of Sasquatches in a cave. You know what I mean? Like as much research as my team and I have done, like we're not finding a whole lot of places where Sasquatch are sleeping and stuff like that. So we're wondering, like, well, where are they going? Not to say there's not bedding spots, but makes you wonder. I'm just saying. So, but yeah, some of them are highly intelligent. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
You're looking mainly in North Georgia, and I know that one of my areas is in North Georgia. It's Pigeon Mountain. It's the only place I believe I saw a Sasquatch. I know that there are a lot of caves up there. Do you think they use cave systems? Because the descriptions you were just giving would lead someone to think that maybe you don't think they're flesh and blood. Maybe they're extraterrestrial or something like that. But what do you think about cave systems?
I think that they're all flesh and blood. I think they are. I think they're both. Okay. I think they're flesh and blood, flesh and bone. They're solid just like us. But I also think that they have supernatural abilities, but so do humans. Humans have supernatural abilities. I mean, I personally am able to tap into my enhanced human capabilities to do remote viewing and use my psychic skills. Okay. And I can do telepathy. I mean, I can mind speak with my son sometimes. He knows what I'm thinking, and I know what he's thinking, and it's just basic stuff like that. Everybody does. I mean, think about the last time your phone rang and you were just thinking about that person right before your phone rang. Okay. Or they texted you, right? It's just tapping into that. Yeah. It's a matter of recognizing that we have those abilities and starting to work out our psychic muscles, basically. And, just using it.
Imagine what we could be capable, we as humans could be capable of if we knew exactly how our brains worked.
Yes. If we tapped into our potential, our limitless potential as humans. And I think that the Sasquatch, the Bigfoots, they've been around long enough to where they know how to do it. And they're that's why they hide from us for a reason, because we're living in some kind of like corrupted timeline right now. Like, I don't think that I'd want to be associated with humans right now either if I was a Bigfoot. So we're just now starting to wake up, some of us. So but yeah, and I think some of the Bigfoots are just animalistic, and they're just looking for food, like feral humans. They're just looking for their next meal and looking for shelter when it rains, and they're just kind of roaming around. So it's a long gamut, like a long, list of different types. So I don't know. I don't have a one solid answer for that, because I think it's just a big mix.
Jessica, do you think it's going to take a body before science realizes or recognizes?
No. Okay. Well, I did mention, what if they marched out some werewolves and Dogman on a stage, right?
Yeah.
Would people even believe it? I
mean, all the evidence that we as researchers have been collecting, and science keeps saying, no, it's not enough. It's not enough. We need an actual type specimen. So tomorrow somebody's out in the woods and they kill one and they bring it in. Is that what it's going to take before science says, okay, this is real. You got us. This is a new species. You think it's going to take a body? Because that's what I think. I hate it. I don't agree with it. I'm not going to be the one that brings in a body unless it's trying to hurt me or my family. That's the only way I'd ever kill one, is if I felt threatened, or if my kids or my family was being threatened by one. But if it happens, do you think that that's what it's going to take for science to finally accept it?
I don't think that science is going to accept it anytime soon. Melba Ketchum did that study, right? And
they bashed her.
She was completely bashed and discredited. And anybody with real information like that comes out gets a gigantic smear campaign. Okay, there's a vested interest in keeping it quiet, keeping it under wraps. So science will never. I mean, I don't trust any science hardly anymore. Okay. Unfortunately. So I think what it is, I think it's people like us that are out there doing the field research that actually, like, I know for a fact Bigfoot's real. I know for a fact. I've seen them. I've experienced them. I know they're real. My search is done. I already know they're real. You know, now have I ever seen a dead body of one? No, and I don't think we're ever going to get one. Honestly, now I think it potentially. What if there is that breeding program and they decided one day to march some out to show us? I mean, maybe that's where we're headed. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I just think I don't know. Yeah, if we got a body, I think it would open people's minds a little bit more to it. But the
Yeah,
minute that there's a body, a flatbed truck comes and picks it up and drives off with it, you know,
exactly.
with
That's
armed
it.
guards and stuff. So yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon.
yeah,
So I'm going to keep coming on shows and talking about what I know, and maybe we'll make some headway here.
yeah. I mean, that's all we can do. It's fun. It's interesting as hell. So whether it happens or not, we'll still be out here talking about it.
We're still talking about it. I'm just
Yeah.
wanting one of those breeding program guys to come on and shout out to Victor, whoever you are. I hope you will. I hope Victor will tell us some more and publish a book one day or something.
Come on, Victor.
Yeah.
What are you waiting
Come
on,
on,
buddy?
Victor. I don't know you. Call me, please. I'm the Cryptid Huntress. I'm gonna find you. You find me.
Speaking of the Cryptid Huntress, tell everybody where they can find you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Well, the easiest place to find me is on my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. And I have a lovely YouTube channel that you are showing right now. Thank you, Wayne. That's the Cryptid Huntress over on YouTube. I do live shows there every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's my remote viewing show, by the way, is every Thursday night. And then you guys can find me on Spaced Out Radio on their YouTube channel and all over social media. That is at 10 p.m. Eastern every Saturday and Sunday night. I have a show called Off the Trails there, where I bring on the biggest and best in the research field. And Wayne, I do believe you're my next guest on that show. So that's going to be a really good time. I can't wait. But that's
Yeah.
where you can find me. And I'm the Cryptid Huntress all over social media. So y'all come say hey to me sometime.
Very cool. And yes, ma'am, I was gonna say that. Spoiler alert. I believe I'll be coming on here shortly to visit with you on your show.
That's right.
Looking forward to it. Jessica, great as always. Thank you so very much for taking the time to hang out, ma'am. It's always fun.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks for having me. Thank you to your audience.
Yep. Thank you, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye, y'all.
Bye bye. There you go. All right. Thanks so much to the audience tonight. Very, very active. I appreciate that. The views were up, or the viewers were up tonight. That is awesome. I love that. Um, I don't know. Maybe it was the guest or what, but might need to start looking at doing these on Monday. I like how many people were in here hanging out. All right, guys, another one done. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. All the questions, comments, and like I said, no show tomorrow, but we will be here Friday evening, same time, same place, with the guys from the movie The Woodman. I've been looking forward. This one's been booked for a little while, and I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be interesting. They've done some research into the topic, and you guys, if y'all have listened to me, you know that feral people is something that I'm interested in. So I'm looking forward to this Friday. All right. Special thank you to Miss Tiffany for holding down the chat. Thank you, ma'am. And to everyone else that participated tonight, thank you guys very much. I love you guys. Wouldn't be doing this without you. So until next time, y'all be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you later.